All right. Top of the hour, 1 p.m. on January 16th. People should start trickling in for RightTool Pro for QuickBooks Online official launch webinar. So we're going to give it probably about a minute until everybody sort of settles in really quick. And can you put in the chat box, or let's do it in the chat box. Put in the chat box so we can test it. Can you put whether you are currently, just put whether you're currently a free user, a pro user, or none. Just put free, pro, or none. So none means you haven't tried it, you haven't used it. Maybe you heard about it. Maybe you're curious about it. So Mark, maybe you can do some quick statistics there with your eyesight.
I can see that we have a lot of people in the webinar. That's the only statistic I can get out of that, to be honest.
Very true. Very, very true. Well, I'll run a polling question in the middle of it. All right. So let's get started. Recording is on. Yes, it is. Perfect. Chat is working. Mark is here. Patrick is here. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome everyone to RightTool for QuickBooks Online official 1.0 launch, January 16th, 2023. RightTool is a third-party app not associated with Intuit or QuickBooks, but we built this app for Intuit for QuickBooks Online, and without QuickBooks Online, RightTool doesn't do anything. So we are tight at the hip with QuickBooks Online. We love QuickBooks Online, and that's why we work right beside it with RightTool. All right, so let's talk really quick about today's agenda. We're going to talk about RightTool, the company, the software, the concept, really, really quick. Then we're going to talk about subscribing to Pro. Okay, so we will have a free version and a Pro version, and both are important to us. Some people want to be a Pro, some people want to be free user. Totally okay. Then we'll quickly talk about activating the 2023 prepaid account. We had about 340 something beta testers that opted into prepay for the entire year. This happened last year, and that's no longer available. That's only for the beta testers. So I want to really do give a shout out and special thanks for beta testers who literally helped us build this software, give us suggestions, all of that stuff. Okay, then we're going to talk about two really important pages, the release notes and the keyboard shortcuts. They're really, really extremely important pages to just kind of keep in your bookmarks. Okay, I've also put in the chat, I put a link to the slides.
You actually, I was going to say you put that, I think, in the host and panelist chat. There's also somebody who's asking for closed captions, if that's something to easily turn on.
Oh, I don't know how to turn that on. Yes, sorry, I don't know how to turn that on. And given the fact that we are an accessible, friendly company, I don't know how to do that. So if you have any information, you want to email me about how to turn that on, or email Mark about how to turn that on in Zoom, we would do that. But I don't know what button to press for that. I apologize for that. And if you somehow figure it out, Mark, let me know. All right. So then after we talk about those two things, we're going to talk about the new features available in all versions, and these are new features for January. Okay. I know for a lot of you folks have been using RightTool. These will be new features for you, and you kind of have some background in terms of what RightTool has developed in the past 4 months or so. And so for some of you watching RightTool for the first time, we will do a very, very brief sort of summary of that, but we're going to be focusing on the new features mostly, but there will be some exciting things on the new feature, even if you're seeing RightTool for the first time. So you should definitely, absolutely see some value on that. So we'll talk about those, and then we're going to talk about the Pro-only features. That's sort of second half of the webinar there, and then we'll leave it open completely for Q&A. All right, so let's get right to it. And again, Mark, if you find the closed captioning thing, if you figure it out, let me know really quick.
I know a couple of people have linked some support. It looks like there might be a more button for you that has
All right.
that you can press.
Quick pause here. Nah, it's not. Maybe not in the live webinar. Maybe something we have to do earlier. Let me see.
In host controls, I don't know if there's a settings button or anything like that.
It's not
inside
there.
of the.
It's not there. It could be inside the webinar settings. Okay, so it's only apparently only works in meetings. But we'll go back. I mean, so for closed captioning, folks, the recording will go on YouTube, and YouTube automatically close captions. But we'll find out about the future for that. And we'll definitely keep that in mind for future webinars. Thank you for that. Okay, so RightTool, about the company, about the team. So RightTool is a trademark or brand owned by a company named Accounting Pro Tools LLC. It's a company we formed in Florida, the state that I live in, and it's owned and operated by the three people in the live webinar, by myself, Hector Garcia, by Mark Corum, and by Patrick Cummings. There are no outside investors. This is 100% funded by us internally. Accounting Pro Tools is a software development shop that will build custom applications for the accounting industry, and RightTool is its first project. I don't know how to code, and I won't learn how to code. I don't care about learning how to code. I know how accounting works. I know how what our audience wants. I know what QuickBooks users want. And my role in this company is to be the translator between the user and the developers. And Mark and Patrick are the two developers. We founded the company in September 2022. We went with the first public free beta of RightTool on 9/29/2022. And today is the official launch. Today, January 16th, we're launching 1.0, no longer in beta. Our beta project has graduated to a real software company and a real product. If you have any business inquiries or investment inquiries or advertising inquiries or whatever, there's my email address. You can email me directly. Now, quick, very important concept, especially if you're new to this, if you have not installed it. RightTool is a browser extension. You must install it in your browser. It doesn't attach itself to QuickBooks. There's no way to attach it itself to QuickBooks. There's no linking to QuickBooks. There's no connection to QuickBooks. We technically cannot manipulate or touch the QuickBooks data unless you're pressing buttons in the browser extension. The browser extension needs to be installed, needs to be active, and it works in Google Chrome. It also works in Microsoft Edge, and it also works in theory in any Chromium-based browser, but we designed it for Chrome, and we're only going to support it for Chrome. So if you have some random browser that you installed it and it kind of works, and you email us, we're probably going to say, look, test it in Chrome. If it works in Chrome, we probably can't support every single Chrome browser that is out there. It does work on Edge. You still download it through the Google Chrome web extension store, but it could work on Edge. And again, it works in several Chromium browsers. Okay, so let's talk about RightTool Free versus RightTool Pro. So either Free and Pro is included in the same downloadable file. You're going to download one version of RightTool into your browser, and if you have a active Pro subscription, the tool will activate itself into Pro. And if you don't have an active Pro subscription, or you haven't connected your extension to the Pro web portal, then it's just going to revert back to free. So there's always going to be a free version. And the best way to know whether you're free or pro is here on the bottom right. You're going to see an ad. If you see an ad, a rotating ad, any ad of any sort, your current version of RightTool is free. And you will also know on the bottom right of the logo, it will say free and then the version number next to it. That will swap over to Pro when you activate the Pro account, and we'll discuss how that works. So that's a really important piece. So everybody on this webinar, everybody watching the video recording later, every QuickBooks user in the world, all 5 million plus users in QuickBooks in the world, we encourage you to get RightTool free version. And obviously, if you like the Pro, go to Pro. If you want to stay in free, go in free. We actually don't mind. We like both because the free is ad supported and we get revenue that way too. It works in a PC, it works in a Mac, it works in a Chromebook, but it doesn't work on an iPad. iPads do not allow Chrome extensions. I believe Android tablets do. Somebody correct me otherwise, but Android do, but that's mostly PC, Mac, or Chromebook. As I mentioned, Google Chrome is the the preferred browser. And we are going to develop things that are Chrome only. We're going to start interacting with a Chrome API, so we'll be able to do even more interesting things with that. Free versions ad supported, and you have to subscribe to Pro for the Pro feature. So in the slides, you're going to have a link to getting the free version, and there's also going to be a link to a spreadsheet. So I'm gonna present the spreadsheet now. So right now, if you click on the spreadsheet, you're seeing the exact same spreadsheet that Mark and I use to keep track of all the features and also keep track of what video tutorials we have created for each one. At some point in the future, if you're watching this recording, that link will probably send you to a really nicely formatted website, a page in our website. But for now, you're going to see the spreadsheet. You can access it. It has every feature, every description. It has a column to whether or not it's in the free version, in the Pro version, and whether or not it's toggleable. So toggleable means it can be turned off or on. One of the major themes of RightTool Pro is that it's customizable, and it's going to be a customizable experience for every single person. Okay, so these are the features that are live now. We have another spreadsheet that you don't have access to, but we're gonna make access to the Pro users, only Pro users very soon, which is our pipeline spreadsheet. So you can actually see what we're working on, and you can vote on that and give us feedback on what takes priority over the next thing. We're gonna do that very soon in the next couple of months, only for Pro users, only because if you guys pay for the app, you're the ones we're gonna hear feedback from. We get feedback from everyone. Again, a lot of the new features we added, it's for Pro, but our Pros are gonna be the ones that are basically, this software is co-developed by our users. It's co-developed by our community per se. So you got the spreadsheet, you can access it. Very soon there'll be a YouTube video from 30 seconds to 5 minutes that explains every single feature, and we're embedding the videos inside the app as well. So we'll get to that pretty soon. Now, to subscribe to Pro, just go to the link that's in there. The retail price for RightTool is $50 a month. That's the strategy that we have moving forward. That is only for the first user. So you can sign up through the website, through the portal. You will get a 14-day free trial, even if you subscribe to Pro. 14-day free trials. If you don't like it, you cancel or don't. Put the credit card in or cancel the subscription, and you'll always have access to the free version regardless. If you're a multi-user firm, the $50 a month, it's only for the first user, what we're calling the admin user. So if you're a one-person firm, it's $50 a month. If you're a gazillion person firm, it's $50 a month for the admin, and then every additional user would be $15 a month. So 50 for the main user, 15 for the additional firm users. If you work for one of the big top 100 firms, Deloitte, KPMG, whatever, we're open to negotiating an enterprise rate if you can bring hundreds and hundreds of users. Of course, we're going to say yes to something like that. But for the time being, for the average small business firms that we approach, they're going to be $15 a month for additional users. Now, we do have an official launch day promotional code. I know a lot of you watching the live webinar already prepaid 2023, so that's great. We love you. For the folks that after this webinar go, yeah, you know what, I need the Pro version. We have a launch day promotional code that gives you 30% off for 12 months. That's 30OFF12MONTHS, 30 off 12 months. Use that promo code, and the $50 a month go down to $35 a month for 12 months. The additional user is still $15 a month no matter what. So that promo, it's only for the first user, which is going to be the most common use case that we have. Now, we actually have a video. We posted a video on the process on how to activate your prepaid account prior to today. I'm gonna run through it really quick, and I'm gonna put Patrick's email. Patrick's job is to make sure that everybody that prepaid for the 2023 gets migrated over to the sort of free account for the whole year, because you already prepaid it. So I'm going to walk you through it really quick so you can see exactly how that works. So this is for the folks that prepaid already, and then after I show you that, I'll show you how to activate it if you can activate it in the future. So currently I have a free account. You see there's an ad there, and let's say I prepaid for 2023. So I'm going to go to my Gmail account really quick, and I should get an email from RightTool Pro Web Portal. It says, let me zoom out a little bit. It says RightTool Pro Prepaid 2023 activation. You just click on that, and then it's going to tell you thank you very much. You prepaid for one Pro user, et cetera, et cetera. Click activate Pro account. Now, let me just make sure that I'm not logged in into RightTool Pro at the moment. So just let me log myself out because I already have an active account. So what you're going to do is you're going to get that email. You're going to click on activate Pro account. It's going to take you to the place where you're going to create an account. Again, for the people that prepaid, the only way you know that you prepaid is because you got an email. If you didn't get an email, wait a few minutes. I'm going to show you how to sign up for Pro later on. For now, we're just going to show you the process really quick. So you're going to create the account from the email that you got invited. You're going to click on submit. Okay. And then once you do that, it's going to log in into the portal. You are going to go back to this portal for multiple things. Once, if you want to cancel your subscription, you just come in here, cancel your subscription. If you need to update your credit card payment, you click on update payment, and you can put your credit card information there. You will have to put your credit card information if you're going to add additional firm users, even if you already paid the year. And then here where it says Pro members, this is where you can invite multiple firm users, and these are the ones that are going to be $15 a month. We are working on, I can't give you a timeline yet, on how we can do more inter-user interactivity. So one of the things about this portal is if people want to share their own profile, their RightTool profile, their settings, we're working on building that entire sort of inter-user operability. And possibly we had one user suggest, hey, I want to force my firm users to only use certain features inside RightTool and not other features. We're going to be working on that as well. So very excited about the multi-user aspect of RightTool. Okay, all right. So that's in a nutshell how you activate your existing account. Now, let's say you don't have an existing account, and I want to go back into RightTool here. I'm going to refresh for a second. Then once I'm done refreshing, it should recognize the Pro account. It didn't. Let me just hit refresh one more time. No, I have to do one more thing. Yep, sorry. One more thing. One more thing. Thank you for that. One more thing. So if yours says free up here, it doesn't say Pro, but you did create the account, you have to go into the settings and you have to click on login. So now you have to get RightTool to log in into the portal. So we're going to click on login and then click on allow. And then you're going to put your user ID and password and log in, and then it should unlock. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to log out and click on login one more time. Make sure I put my my information in there, the one I did to create the account. Okay, I have an active subscription. Hopefully when I get back in here, I hit refresh, and now it should say log out. It should tell me what my version number is and my user ID for the Pro account. So if you see Pro there and a user ID, that means your Pro is activated. If you go back into your QuickBooks Online and you see your right sidebar and you see it should say Pro now, there you go, Pro admin. So say Pro admin if you are the admin, or Pro user if you're one of the firm users, and ad went away at this point. Okay, so that's it. That's for the boring part. Let's now talk about the exciting part. Okay, so some of the exciting parts, number one is we are always going to have a notes page in the website. So at any point in time that you want to follow the history of all the new features that have been added based on version, that's going to be in there. In some cases, we might even publish what's coming out in the next couple of days, because we don't know exactly when people get to refresh their extension. So some people might be in a version prior or whatever. So you have the entire history of all the new things that have been added. One thing I do want to mention, and I want to give a public thanks to our developers, Mark and Patrick. If you actually follow this thing and you go back to when we first started on 9/29, you'll see that every 2 or 3 days, literally new features and bug fixes are being created. The hardest working team in the development world It's Mark and Patrick. These guys are the John Lennon and Paul McCartney of accounting software, Chrome extension for QuickBooks Online development. These guys have done a wonderful job, and up to this point where we had this amazing release. So it's for some people, it could be kind of fun just going through and seeing the entire journey of all the things that we added along the way. The only one that really matters for most people is obviously the latest version or the full version, which is going to contain all the things that were added or changed. And yes, even in New Year's, we were doing stuff. I mean, we've gotten very little sleep since September. The other page I encourage you to visit often is the shortcut page. The shortcut page, we're adding keyboard shortcuts. RightTool in its essence, when we first created RightTool was two things. It was a database of shortcuts and extended keyboard shortcuts. That's in its core what RightTool is. It's accessibility, it's quick access, it's less clicks, it's to save you seconds. That's what RightTool is. We're trying to save you seconds, shave off a second. If you start memorizing those shortcuts or print it, have it next to your screen or whatever, you're gonna access so many things so much quicker. It's not even funny, like how much faster you can work when you use keyboard shortcuts. And QuickBooks Online does have like 6 or 7 shortcuts you can use. We have like 40 shortcuts at this point, so we're extending the shortcuts. Also, if you've never seen RightTool before and you're trying to figure out, you know what, some of this webinar is going a little bit over my head, too advanced. I haven't seen RightTool yet. I'll put a link here to like what I think is the best how to get started with RightTool that explains all the free features. It's focused on the free features, this particular one. So there's the link for that. Okay, that being said, that took a very long time to get to like the exciting part, which is talking about the new features. So Mark, I'm going to give you, actually, Mark and Patrick, I've talked for 20 minutes straight. You guys wanna say something for the next couple of minutes while I swap over screen sharing to Mark?
Just yeah, for what it's worth, if you don't have the update yet where it doesn't show free version 1.1 or anything like that, eventually the Chrome extension will update. It's just that Chrome extensions are weird with how they update. And then yes, check your invites or check for your invites in the Chrome or in your spam or junk folder. It could be there. And if you still can't find it after that, let us know and we will send you another invite so you can get set up, because we want everybody to be able to get upset or set easily, not upset. And I think that I need to have screen sharing okay, it is enabled. You just enabled it. Okay. So yeah, the first thing,
it might be worth it showing people before we jump into enhanced amount search, which is an extremely important new feature. Show people how to refresh the extension so
exactly.
It does the update.
Yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to show real quick is that there's 2 reasons I want to show this. First of all, if you pin the extension, I have too many extensions. If you pin the extension up the top here, then you can just simply click on it. And if you reload this extension, you will automatically get updates. So that will update it for you. And this also works if for whatever reason, sometimes people, the right toolbar goes away and it just won't come back for whatever reason. This also helps with that. So just want to get that out of the way because I know that can be really frustrating when the right tool just all of a sudden disappears for no reason. We're trying to figure out why that happens more frequently. We'll see. And I think that covers that. Let me add this over to here, dismiss this, and go to the slideshow. So what I'm going to show you guys now is a new feature. It's the enhanced amount search. So I've heard a lot of you talking about whenever you do the search inside of here, and you search for it, and it's like, oh, it doesn't search like inside the lines or anything like that. So we've made some adjustments to this. So now what will happen is, let's say you wanted to search for something that is between $100 and $300. If you just do, greater than 100 and then less than 300, and then you search, it will actually take you to the old search screen, and it will search for any transactions that are in between that range. So hopefully
I just want to add, after you added more than and less than, you click, you said, and you search, which you meant you clicked on the magnifying glass.
Or press enter.
But it also when you press enter. The reason why I want to point out, Mark, is because we actually have a blind person listening to the webinar. So I want to make sure that when we do say press this, we describe exactly what it is, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for that same feature, you might have a time when you want to search not for the total amount of the invoice, or not really just invoice, the transaction. If you want to do greater than 100 and less than 300, and you press or you hold control and then enter, it will actually open up a new tab, and it will search for the inside of the lines itself. So that's something that can be useful if you're trying to look for individual items inside of a transaction. That same thing should also apply. Don't hold me too much to this. If you type in something and you press Control Enter, you can also now search inside of the actual transactions for the memos now, because it used to be that I know people were kind of upset that you would be trying to find something in the description and you couldn't find it because the other search would only search for this memo right here and not inside the actual lines themselves. So yeah. And you can do this if you just want something greater than 100. You can also just search for that. And then you have everything greater than 100. So it doesn't have to be just a range. It can just be anything you want it to be. So hopefully that makes searching a little bit easier for everybody. And is there anything else that we wanted to go over with that, Hector? I don't know if you particularly had something you want to state.
Just point out that's available in all versions, free.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah, that is available for free users as well as pro users. Yeah.
So let's talk about the new settings menu.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about this. We're hoping this will make it so that when you first log into RightTool, it'll be a little bit less of a just incredibly jarring experience, because we know that it was a big screen with a lot of stuff on it. We still have the same amount of stuff, but we're trying to make it a little bit cleaner. So we've kind of revamped the whole thing. Now we have actual sections, with everything up on the top section being free and all of these being pro features. And if you need to work with something in report, hopefully you're easily able to just go to report and be like, oh, I want to change these features. The other thing about this in particular change is the fact that now, if you want to see more information on it, or you want to see what it does because you're worried that we're going to break your QuickBooks Online, then you can press the info button, and it will give you a text description of what turns on in here, as well as, if we have it, a video demonstrating what the actual feature does, so that you can be 100% sure whether you want to use it or not.
I want to add something. If we have it, that means as of today, within a week, there will be a video for every single feature. Just keeping that in mind. Yeah.
There's a lot of features. So yeah, making a video for them is quite a thing. But yeah, and then if you want to turn everything on or off inside of any of the pages, there's a button here that can just easily toggle everything for you. So that I think that covers most of the change to the settings. I don't think there's anything else I can think of that we want to specifically.
Yeah, only thing we can add is that you can turn off all features on and off for each section individually by clicking on that button that says all accessibility off and on, and every section individually. Yeah. Yeah.
With that being said, I believe the next thing we're going to talk about is it speech to text? Okay, let's do it. Let me make sure I actually have that feature turned on. So we have, as you can see here, we have this turned on. And what's cool about speech to text, we released this not too long ago. It's just it does exactly what it says it does. So if I press Control Enter, yeah, or is it Control Enter or Control Space? Okay, Control Space. I use a Stream Deck for this, so I don't actually remember any of the hotkeys. So if I press Control Enter and I say, well, let's actually stop that real quick. Profit and loss, then it will automatically search inside of this text box for me, and I can find whatever shortcuts, whether they're saved or just default shortcuts inside of here. The cool thing about this, though, and the part that I love and I like to use, is I like to say profit and loss go. And what that'll do is it makes it so that that go is a keyword, and it will actually automatically take you to whatever page or whatever the first result would be. And this works even when you have RightTool closed. So if you're somebody who really hates the sidebar and just wants to always be closed, but you still want the functionality of it, you can just do Control Space, profit and loss go. And it might not work on that one because I was talking while I was saying it, so it probably did that same exact thing I did before.
I think, Mike, I think I have the right navigation bar needs to be open. I haven't.
Other than, one sec. Let's try it. Let's try it 1 second.
Yep.
Balance sheet go. Yeah, there you go. Now we're in the balance sheet.
I stand corrected.
So hopefully that's something that's cool for people, as well as something that can maybe make life a little bit easier for people who are blind. And that same technology is at work for if you press Control-Shift-A while inside of any field. So let's actually, I don't know if this will work, but let's see here. Search for something or another. And then you can, as you can see, you can actually use search inside of any individual like text box inside of QuickBooks Online. So it's something that might be useful for some people to be able to, do stuff quickly with their voice.
What it might make more sense, Mark, is like when you're typing an invoice and you want to describe on the description,
right,
like what you want to charge for, like that. I would say that's probably where we spend the most time, just typing stuff.
That is true.
Something like that.
Yeah, you could spend a lot of time thinking about what to write inside of this description, and it will just keep on going and going and going, and eventually you stop. And there you go. It's much faster than typing all of that. Well, at least for me anyways, it's much faster than typing. So yeah, I think that's the gist of that particular one. Oh, and another thing as well is if you don't want to have the let's see here, the shortcuts enabled, we will still always have the option to do speech to text with this button up here that is the microphone. So just something to keep in mind.
But not for text box. For text boxes, you need to have Control-Shift-A because we can't put a microphone on every single icon in every single text box. So for text box, yes, you are going to need to have the Control-Shift-A. For the universal search, you can just put. Just curious, and I hate to do this live. What if you say more than 100? More like, will it actually type up more than 100 or?
Oh, you're really testing fate on this one, aren't you?
Yeah, let's see what happens.
More than 100. Yeah.
Well, so what about what about in the control space?
Oh, okay. Let's see what happens with that. More than 100. And then let's try it one more time. Greater than 100. Nah, unfortunately, it seems like it wants to do it all in text more so than it wants to do the symbol.
Could we design like a sort of a text replace where we can say search between 100 and 200 and it will just do that for you?
I mean, yeah, we could do it. And this is what working with Hector is like, just randomly all the time, just coming up with an idea. You just see something, it's like, okay, I want to add 5 more things to your workload now.
Yeah, sorry about that. So
no, again, fine. It's fun, but
we're still in free mode. This is all available in the free version. Yeah.
This is all free. Yeah. And then the next thing we're going to talk about is the colorblind features. So there's 2 things that this kind of relates to. which is one, we've heard the comments that people don't like the red, as Hector likes to call it, the blood red. I like red, and so that's my bad. But if you really want it so everything shows up as black, you can, there's a setting here for the black and white color scheme. That doesn't change everything. It only changes RightTool inside of QuickBooks Online. And actually, let's just go to a quick page to see how that works. So usually if you guys are long-term users of RightTool, you'll know that you can get this description underneath, or the actual like long description underneath the normal description for a item in the bank feed. And usually it's in dark red, but when you have the black and white mode turned on, it's just black and white. Same for this extra card text right here. So that's just all that does. Doesn't change the whole color scheme of everything, just the stuff we add in. And then the next thing is colorblind negatives, which I think is a pretty nifty little thing. If we go to profit and loss, and let's see, let's run presets on this. As you can see here, normally when you have the negatives turn red, it turns the negatives red. But if you have the colorblind mode on, it actually turns it to a blue color. That way, people who have that specific kind of color blindness can just see a different color, and it's much clearer to them what's going on. So hopefully that can help some of our people with color blindness. Is there anything else you want to add to that one, Hector?
No, that's it. I think I could take, I think it's my turn, right?
Yeah, I think it is your turn.
Yes, it is. I've been jumping at the bit. I want to talk about like a gazillion things that we've done.
I know you do.
All right, so stop. Can you stop sharing? Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, now you have to give me host.
Oh, do I have to give you host?
I can reclaim it.
Okay, there we go.
I can reclaim it. Okay, perfect. So let's share my screen. Desktop number 2. Here we go. All right. Okay, so I'm excited about a couple things here. Number one is we have a surprisingly large amount of Canadian users, and we love Canada. And so we actively getting feedback from our Canadian users and telling us, hey, you know, you need this, we need that, because obviously we built this with QuickBooks US in mind. So if you go into the search box here and you type parentheses, CA parentheses, it will give you a list of all the Canadian only reports that are available and Canadian only functions. Okay, so if you're missing a certain thing, you know, before we did this update, just type parentheses, CA parentheses, and do that. And yes, we will. I'm talking to some UK users, Australian users, South African users, and then we're also going to bring in all their features as well. At some point, we will figure out how to detect what country they're in, and then based on that, we can modify RightTool. For now, we're just going to add it to the database. So thank you, Canadian users, for being loyal RightTool users. There's 2 other new set of features we added in the shortcuts list. One is called the recurring shortcuts. So if you type recurring, so I'll just type RECURR, and you go down the list here, it will give you a direct access to creating a recurring transaction of any of these things. So we do, let's say, a recurring invoice. So we're going to go recurring invoice. So if I just type recurring invoice, I can also say it verbally, click on recurring invoice, it will take me to creating an invoice, and it will preset the recurring for me. So it will save me that click. Actually, sorry, not that. I misspoke. It will take me to the list of recurring invoices. So it's pre-filtered, and it's a list of recurring invoices. Sorry, not it's not to initiate recurring, it's to search recurring. Now, if you go down here and type a new recurring sales receipt, yes, that's in there. So for that, you would have to type new recurring. So if you type new recurring, these 2 are available, invoice and sales receipt. We're still trying to figure out how to get the other ones in there. But if you type new recurring, it'll take you straight to the transaction and already set up as recurring. If you type just recurring and you see the rest of them, it will take you to the list of recurring transactions. That's what it does. I apologize for that. The next one I want to talk about is recent transactions. So if you type the word recent, hold on, search. Okay, if you type the word recent or search recent, it will also take me a list of recent transactions. This is huge because if you right now, if you click on the magnifying glass, you will see recent searches and recent transactions, but this screen is very limited. Okay, it doesn't give you that many things. And if you do click on view more, you get a little bit more. It's not that bad. I mean, it's not that great. And if you click view more down here, it will take me to a list of all the recent transactions. So if we're just looking at recent invoices, you click on search recent and then type invoice, and it will take me straight into the old search screen with recent transactions, only invoices, and they're all sorted by date. Okay, so that was recent. So that was recurring and recent as the new things that were added. Okay, so up to this point, everything that we've talked about is related to the free version of RightTool. I want to talk to you about and I think Mark might not be too happy that I might be taking the stage at this point, because I might show you a feature that will either break the internet, okay, or make a couple of accountants slightly less cranky. One of those two. And this was called the reconciled trigger. And some of you may already have seen it, but under Accountant Pro, and we're now in Pro user mode, it's called Reconcile Transaction Indicator. This is version 1 of this, and I'm hoping that we can make this even better. We're working on more reconciled related type of features, but the Reconcile Transaction Indicator, what it does in a nutshell is, if I pull a transaction, let's say I pull a regular transaction, let's say this one, deposit, right here, right next to the name of the transaction, it will say reconciled. Okay, it will say reconciled in it. That way, letting you know that transaction is reconciled. This is huge for a lot of people. A lot of accounting professionals are going to love this. Now, I'll give you some kind of slightly funny story about how we figure out how to do this. Basically, in QuickBooks, when you click on more and go to delete, you get a warning that says the transaction has been reconciled. So Mark figured out how to detect whether or not that warning would show up if you click on delete. Basically looked at I assume the sequence of events that come in with HTML. And because that's there, then we can add the word reconciled. The part that I added, so I'll take some credit for this, that I added is we made also that hyperlinkable. So if you actually click on reconciled, and I know most of you want to click on that and go straight to the reconciliation page on when or where it was reconciled. Unfortunately, that's not possible just because of technicalities. But what we've done is when you click on that, it opens up the journal report, and a couple extra things happen. So you click on that, it takes you to the journal report. It enables the cleared column, which is something that normally you would have to click on the gear menu, click on show more and click on gear. So that way it lets you know, again, confirming the transaction, it's cleared. But also there's 2 additional buttons here that Mark added. One is back to previous screen, which that's pretty cool. So if I click on back to previous screen, it will take me to where I was prior to viewing that transaction, or I'll just go back into that deposit again one more time and go into reconciled, or I can go to back to transaction, and it gets me out of the loop and it sends me back to the transaction instead of back to the report list, or that just weird thing that QuickBooks Online does when you open up a transaction journal. But the other reason why this is important is because sometimes there are journal entries, there are transfers, there are different types of transactions that are reconciled, and it could say that it's reconciled, but you would have to know which side of it has been reconciled. So what exactly does that mean? So for example, if we're looking at this journal entry here and we're seeing 3 potential accounts, or 4 or 5 or whatever, there's a whole bunch of potential accounts where this transaction, these lines could be reconciled. So I'm just going to reconcile one of these lines here. Right now, none of them have been reconciled. But if I reconcile any of these, so let me go here to reconcile. And we're getting sort of in the nerdy aspects of accounting now. Like a lot of people are gonna watch this and go, what the heck is it talking about? But let's assume for a second that we're gonna only gonna clear, or we're only gonna reconcile one of these lines in the journal entry. One of these is about to be reconciled, or two or three, it doesn't matter. One that is not necessarily every single line has been reconciled, just maybe one or two. So I'm gonna just force reconcile this one really quick, and I'm gonna click on done, and then go back to this journal entry, click on refresh. Hopefully it will detect that one of these lines have been reconciled at this point. Okay, let's give it a second for it to calculate. There it is. But when you're looking at this, you don't know which side has been reconciled. So by clicking on reconciled, it takes you into that journal report. You will now know exactly which of the accounts is the one that's reconciled. This happens a lot with transfers, with journal entries, with credit card payments. Okay, hopefully I didn't bore you to death on that. But I would say, long story short, if this doesn't excite you, you got no soul. Okay, bottom line, I can say that unequivocally. I am completely comfortable with saying something like that. All right, next one, I'm gonna go into bank feed. Again, this is all the pro feature, right? The pro feature is the pro feature is like, the pro version of RightTool is how I dream QuickBooks Online should be. Me as an accounting professional, as a bookkeeper, as a CPA, as a QuickBooks expert, whatever title you want to give me, this is what I dream QuickBooks had built in. That's what the pro version is. This is like where the imagination runs wild, okay? So the next one here is called Auto Update Bank Feeds. So these are actually two things. Auto Update Bank Feeds does two things. If I have this turned on, what will end up happening is when I come here into banking, or into bookkeeping transactions really, but when I go into the banking screen, what this does is this verifies when the account was last updated, or the transactions were downloaded, and it will trigger an update, but it'll only do it once per login. So it won't do it every single time. You get it, so once per login. So if you actually go and swap from client to client, if you keep going swapping from client to client, and you go straight into bank feeds, it will run all the updates for you. We can't massively do it across multiple companies, but the minute you log into that company and the minute you go into bank feeds, it will run the update for you. The second thing is Control-Shift-B triggers the update for you, because I know some people are scroll down here somewhere and they don't want to scroll up to click on update. So Control-Shift-B triggers an update, or you can set it so it automatically happens when you first log into your QuickBooks Online file, and when you first go into banking. Okay, so that's really that's all it is. That's what Auto Update Bank Feeds is. Next thing is group favorites, and this is something that I think has taken us probably about 3 months to finally develop, just because there were some complications with it. And this is a really important one. Okay, so when we first created RightTool, and we created the ability to add your custom bookmarks, when you click on custom bookmark, there used to be a checkbox where you put company file dependent, or company file only, or something like that. So the idea was that you can create your bookmarks only for a specific company file. We took that away and we replaced it with a different functionality, which is called group favorites. So, and there's two purposes of this. One is, so maybe possibly you can create a group that's only for one company, or one type of company, or one group of companies, or also so you can launch an isolated list of tabs based on your workflow. All right, so let me try to explain this. Let's say, for example, that in average, for most of your companies, your workflow requires reviewing a P&L, reviewing a balance sheet, going into banking, reconciling, and going into the register. Let's say those are the 6 things that you do when you first log in to do a particular month-end workflow or something like that. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna start pulling everything that you're gonna view. So let's say that in this workflow, I like to open, let's say, my chart of accounts. So I open my chart of accounts here, and then once I'm looking at the screen, I'm going to go into group favorites. I'm going to create a group. I'm going to go to create group, and I'm going to call this monthly closing. Okay, so I have monthly closing, let's say number 1. So I create a group called monthly closing number 1. So inside this group, I'm gonna save the chart of accounts into monthly closing number 1 and then click on save. Okay, let's say the next thing I do is a profit and loss. So I'm gonna pull up a profit and loss, and I'm also gonna customize that profit and loss and put last month or whatever it is. I'm gonna do some slight modification to this: last month, previous period, non-zero, whatever it is. I run the report that I want, collapse, and that's exactly the report that I want to see. As long as I don't have any company specific filters or whatever, that could work for anyone. But then I'm going to go back into group favorites and click on save page, and then I'm going to put this into monthly closing number 1 and then click on save. Next thing is I'm going to put my balance sheet, let's say balance sheet detail. And again, I'm just giving you examples. I'm pulling up a whole bunch of things. I customize the report the way I want it. I go back into group favorites and click on save page, add that into monthly closing number 1, click on save. Let's say I also go into my reconcile page, and let's say I also go into my banking page. Okay, so I go to bank feed, I go to reconcile. I am going to go in group favorites, save page. I know this part is getting boring, but when I press the last button here, you will know exactly why group favorites are so valuable and so important. Okay, and I'm gonna save page here and go to monthly closing. Okay, all right, perfect. So now I have a group favorite here called monthly closing 1. If I open it, I get to see all the shortcuts that are there. I can click on edit and change the name if I want to, or I can delete the entire group. I can change order, and this is very important because if I want banking to be first, I click and drag and put banking. And then if I want the reconcile to be second, I go to the next one. If I want balance sheet to be third, and so forth. So I'm going to put them in the order that I want. Okay, now pay attention. I'm going to close all the tabs. Okay, close all the tabs. And let's say I just logged into QuickBooks Online for the first time. I'm going to go into group favorites. Okay, I'm going to refresh. So my group favorites showed up. I'm going to go into group favorites here, and then I should see monthly closing 1. So I can click on this little arrow pointing up. Get ready for this. Click on the arrow pointing up, and all the tabs inside that group open up in one shot. Okay. Now this feature already existed in RightTool. Like if you go into the regular favorites, you can click on open all, and it opens everything that's under those favorites. Okay, you can do that now, but you might want to have a master favorites list that you do for a whole bunch of things. But then the group favorites just allows you to do that. And so you can have, again, a specific, this could be a particular client. It could be a particular task, the month, the weekly, whatever it is, whatever workflow you have that's universal per se, you just create those groups and you open them in one shot. Okay. All right. Mark, we'll take a quick break here. Is there a comment? Is there a question or something before we cover the default year autofill? Did we lose Mark?
One thing you could do, sorry, I muted myself because I have a squeaky chair and I don't know how loud you can hear that. So if you go to RightTool options real quick and go to Accountant Pro, I think people are asking, I think some people don't see the group favorites because we do have it turned off by default. We might change that. We'll see.
Yeah, thank you for that. So if you go into your settings and you click on Accountant Pro, there's group favorites. You have to turn that on.
Yeah. So just to be clear, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think was that it? I mean, I'm looking at the chat and the chat's like going wild and I can't keep track of, like, I don't know if there's a question or.
Honestly, I'm just glad people liked it. I feel like I was like, people are going to be more excited about that reconcile indicator than they are about,
the reconcile indicator is something that you get excited when you're like in the middle of stuff and you go, yes, I remember how long it took me to figure out whether or not this was, because it's not really new. Like the reconcile indicator is one of those things that like it should be there. So it's like you're almost like, oh, okay, finally they fixed something that should always have been there, because it has been there in QuickBooks Desktop forever. But I think that little by little, people are going to they're gonna appreciate that transaction indicator more. Like that reconcile transaction indicator might be the one that when someone's used to using RightTool and they open another computer or they log into a client's file and they don't see it there, where they will really, really miss having that RightTool. And we did make that a pro feature, mostly because we're building more on top of reconcile indicator. Like we're looking at what else can we, what other type of reconciled information can we give the user? Okay, last one. This one's going to be an interesting one because I felt really, really strong about this one when we built it, and it was fairly easy to develop, I think, for the most part, or at least from what Mark tells me. Okay, so let me turn that on. Let me go into account. Where is it? It's on Register. So on Register Pro, it's called Custom Default Year Override or Default Year Autofill is what it's called. It's under Register and it's called Custom Default Year Override. And what essentially the premise of this is that, let's say it's the year 2023 and I'm about to enter a whole bunch of transactions for the year 2022. Okay, so right now when you create a keyboard, when you create a transaction, and let me close the left navigation bar and let me put this in take off paper ledger mode for a second. So right now, if I'm going to create a transaction directly in the register and I go to check, I can use my dating shortcuts and put, let's say 05, 16, 22, hit tab, and that works. That gives me 2022. By default, if I skip the year, so if I put 05, 16 and hit tab, it defaults 2023. This is standard QuickBooks Online functionality. You can skip the slashes, you can skip the year, and it will add the year for you. Well, somehow Mark figured out how to overwrite that. And let's say, for example, you're going to sit there and enter a whole bunch of transactions for 2022 or 2021 or 2020, really doesn't matter. You come in here and you change it. So let's say I'm going to do transactions for 2018. Okay. And then you sit there and you can skip putting the last four year digits and it will auto add 18 for you. So let's say I'm doing January 1st, 0101, hit tab, it auto adds the 18 for me. Like, again, difficult to appreciate in its face, but when you're entering manual transactions for a particular year, that's going to save you 2 keystrokes per date. 2 keystrokes per date is a lot. It's a lot. Now, a lot of people tell me, Hector, I don't use the register that much, or I would use banking instead, and I don't need to do that. True, but some people use a register. Some people have to enter transactions in the register. Now, could we add this feature across the board, all of QuickBooks Online? That's the next frontier. Unfortunately, the date pickers in QuickBooks Online are designed a little bit kind of different. So we don't know if we're going to be able to execute that, but little by little, we'll figure out how to add that, because that date, that everybody uses dates and every transaction has a date. So like the common denominator across all transactions, it's a date, right? Entering a date. So if we can save your time with just specifically with dates, I think it would go a long way. All right, we're the hour's over. We're not going to end it, so we're going to leave it open for Q&A. Let me, I'm going to stop the screen share for a second, and I'm going to run a quick polling question. So we'll be on for maybe another. I mean, I put 90 minutes on the webinar anyway, just in case we run long. But maybe we can just have an open conversation, questions, everything else. Let me just run a quick polling question.
While you're running that question, I did want to put one thing out there for people. When you have the pro account, because I don't know if we actually went over this, I might have been looking at comments, so forgive me, Hector, if you did actually go over it. When you have a pro account, what will happen is if the pro account matches your Intuit ID, it will automatically log you in like the second that you get into QuickBooks Online. If it doesn't match, then there is a button that you can click either in the settings page or in the extension dropdown on the yeah, Hector can show it to you.
Show me. What do you want to show?
So you can either click on where it says log out now, it should say log, or it will say log in if you're not logged in.
Yep.
And then, yeah, right there. And if you want to, you can also click on the actual extension icon itself in the browser. You can only do that when you're in QuickBooks Online, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
And then the second part of that is if you log in that way, then that will work no matter what account you are on. So what that means is that if you have, you know, like 5 different email addresses, because of the fact that I know a lot of you have a lot of multiple email addresses, it will work for all of those email addresses if you log in this way. So just, you know, for people who might be wondering.
I'm gonna take it back for a second, and I'm gonna rephrase it, see if this works. Okay, so when you have RightTool free and you haven't done really anything, it would just go to free. If your Intuit ID, we're talking about this thing here, right? The Intuit ID, which is the user ID you use to log in to your QBO account, which is not always an email. Sometimes it's just a name, it's just an ID. But if your Intuit ID happens to match the user ID of your RightTools Pro account, if it happens to match, somehow, somewhere, we figured out how to not require you to go through the whole login process for it to recognize you as a pro user. Okay, so some of you might not even have gone through the process of actually logging in to get your pro account. You still have to create your RightTool Pro web account. Like you still have to pay for it and get a user ID and password, or follow the email the email instructions if you prepaid. But if your Intuit ID doesn't match your RightTools Pro web account, that's okay. All you have to do is click on login, then log in, and then once you log in, the extension will recognize your access. And then once you go back in here, then it will put here your user ID for your RightTools Pro account, which could be an email or it could be a customized name. So we're trying to make it easy so it'll detect your Intuit ID, but then you can do that. Now, let's say worst case scenario, your Intuit ID doesn't match. Fine, just log in through here and it'll work just fine with any of your Intuit accounts.
Yeah. And to answer, I think, a concern, you shouldn't have to log in ever again, really, as long as your account is active. If that doesn't happen and you have to log in like every day, let me know, because that is definitely not what we want. I don't want to make you log in.
Mark, let me qualify that. You shouldn't have to re-log in on that same computer on that same Google Chrome profile, because if you're on a different computer, right, and RightTool is just installed in there, you still have to log in, right, in that instance, unless somehow there's a
yes, you do have to log in that instance.
So you have to, or if you create a new Google Chrome profile because you're opening multiple accounts, you have to install the browser extension in that Google Chrome profile as well, and you might need to log in also for it to detect it, because the Google Chrome profiles don't talk to each other. So we're talking about within that Google Chrome profile in that computer, you log in once and that's it.
And want to add the browser as well. So if you're using Edge and Chrome, for whatever reason you're going back and forth, you'll need to log in at least once on Chrome and once on Edge. So,
yep, exactly. So we have a question here. It's what's a Stream Deck? Can you extend those, Mark? Can you extend yours, Mark, to the camera? I can't. Well, I have mine.
Okay. Yeah. I just have a normal Stream Deck. I have a wonderful girlfriend who got me this for Christmas. So.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so, it's very nice.
Stream Deck has nothing to do with RightTools, by the way. But the best way to describe Stream Deck, it's a customizable keyboard. But each of the buttons is an LED screen. Whoops! I just turned off my light from here. It's a LED screen, so the buttons themselves can have, like customized things. So one of the applications for this, and you can see like this one right here, I actually put keyboard shortcuts for RightTool in here. So like I could press a button and launch a favorite. We're gonna explore this later on as Mark and I finish playing with this piece of hardware. But essentially what we want to do is we want to take the Stream Deck hardware, which is the base keyboard, and all the extended hardware like the pedals, and create a like an API where we can have our own preset profiles and preset buttons and control RightTool from that. It might take a couple months until we get there, by the way, but that is the next frontier. And adding keyboard shortcuts basically open up the gates to doing that. So I guess that counts as the first question from the Q&A, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now let me ask you a question, guys. You can put it in the chat box. We covered. Let me go back into the agenda here. We covered a bunch of new features. I'd like to know which of the new features. So let's start with just which of the new features, not all the features, but which of the new features did you like the most? Was it the redesign settings menu, enhanced amount search, speech to text dictation, colorblind, new shortcuts, reconcile transaction indicator, group favorites, auto update, or default year? Okay, yeah, so group favorites and reconcile happen. It seems like the biggest one, right? Mark, would you say just visually?
Yeah, I think group favorites, reconcile, and all are the three
Right.
that I've been seeing.
Of course, all is
I
a cheat.
appreciate.
Yeah, all is a cheat. All right, so stop voting or stop typing. Now, from the stuff that we didn't cover today, if you are an existing user, and I think in this webinar we have over 400 people, and 41% has never played with it. So hopefully we'll pick up a couple of free users and pro users there. And we have 22% were free users and 38% were pro users. But so from existing users, prior to today, what was your RightTool? What your favorite RightTool feature? So I start typing there. So prior to today, what was your favorite RightTool feature? So we have search box.
I do love the search box. It's one of those things where you really do, if you haven't used it yet, that is what transforms RightTool from being like kind of annoying to use on the right side to being just like you can't live without it. At least for me, anyways. Once I just really embraced that search box, it's so good. I just like it so much.
Yeah, and just reading the chat on people's favorite feature is very varied, which leads us to believe that all the things that we have added, or most of the things that we have added, are good for some people. And in essence, the beauty of RightTool is, and again, for some people it might be too much. I could totally picture some of my clients just totally not appreciating what RightTool does, and that's okay. But the beauty of RightTool is it's a customizable experience. I mean, there's about 30 or 40 toggles, things you can turn off and on, and different users work different ways. Different users have different workflows. They use, they have different skills. Some are better talking, some are better typing, some are better clicking, some are better using keyboard shortcuts. And that's really what we want. We want this to be a customizable experience, and most importantly, it needs to improve accessibility overall. Like it needs to truly feel like every single person that wants to love this industry as much as we do have access to the best possible tools to do this. And most importantly, in the age of AI and software companies taking our jobs, every second counts. Every second counts. Last thing I'll do is I'll ask you, and I'll send an email to everybody with a recap of the webinar. But I ask you that if you love RightTool, to go into the Chrome Web Store and give it a review. We have over 2,700 users, Patrick, something like that, 2,600 users, and only 4 have posted a review. So it would be nice if you come in and put a review and tell us what you love about RightTool, and only 5-star reviews, please.
Hey, if you wanna put a lower review, just make sure to be very specific about what you want to what you want to be improved.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we would love it if you go to that page and it looks like it gets flagged by Google because we have too many reviews in too short of a time. That's the dream.
Yeah. Plus, look, in order for RightTool to be truly sustainable, we need hundreds of thousands of users. Like for us to have a customer service team and a development team, and like for us to like be beyond just the four of us not sleeping for 4 months, the 3 of us not sleeping for 4 months, we gotta have a real company, and you have to have hundreds of thousands of users to be able to get advertisers to sustain the free version. The free version, it's really the one that sustains the company. The pro version is the one that gives us the ability to just like explore and experiment and do new cool things. So anyway, that's it for me. I'll open up the RightTools page really quick. So RightTool.app, that's your starting point. RightTool.app, there's a link right there to downloading to the Chrome Web Store, where you can download, you can leave a review, and all the other information, it's in there. We have description of the pro features, we have the feature list, we have we're going to drop all the tutorial videos in here. We have a place where you can give us feedback. My email's available, Hector at garciacpa.com. Mark and Patrick were always available. We're very excited to be officially on 1.0. 2023 is going to be an incredible year for our app. If we don't have any more questions, Mark?
I have 3 things. Four things maybe even, that I want to kind of go over real quick. Let's see here. First thing is security. Somebody asked about that. We specifically do not use any outside libraries whenever we're building this. So, I mean, you have to depend on trusting me and Hector in terms of security. But other than that, and because of the fact that we specifically go out of our way not to use API with RightTool, the most anybody can get out of anything they do with hacking or anything like that is they get a free version of Pro. So, I mean, there's nothing that can happen that would affect your QuickBooks files, your clients, or anything like that in any way. So that's just something to keep in mind.
And if any of the users know software security auditors or whatever, we're open to having multiple people look at this and certify the app. Like we want to, of course, absolutely. It needs to be secure, no matter what. Now, we don't store user IDs and passwords, so there's no way that someone can hack RightTool and get access to your QuickBooks Online. So that should be a relief. And also, RightTool cannot do anything passively. Like it can't delete things behind your back. It can't enter things behind your back. We're probably never going to build that type of technology in RightTool itself. It doesn't mean that we can't build other technology. We have a software company. We can do unlimited things. But RightTool is a tool that you use. You have to press buttons. Right? It's a tool. I mean, it requires a human being to interact with it.
Yeah. The next thing is that group favorites. If you weren't able to, or if you didn't see it, or you just want to see it again, we will have this webinar posted sometime either today or later this week, hopefully. Probably should email that out to people, I guess, Hector, as well. So people can have it.
As soon as this goes into YouTube, you're going to get one email with all the links, the slides, the recording. Yeah, just give me.
Yeah. And then as well, now that we have the new settings menu, we do have a video for that in the settings menu. Again, it's in Accounting Pro or Accountant Pro. And so if you click that eye icon, it will do a video for you so that you can do group favorites. Whew, okay, getting through it. Adding teams. Can you go to the RightTool Pro page, Hector? And you're muted in case you didn't know, but I think you are fine. And you go to, you can either do one of two things. Yeah, you can either click Pro Tool or Pro Members inside of the menu. or you can go to Pro Team on this left side of the menu here, and you can just add team members from here. There's a button on that right side of the screen. So that's how you can add members. Just remember, it's 15 per additional user. So, don't get too surprised by that.
I'll add one thing. If you have access to this screen, we have your credit card number. Pretty much, right? Because that means you have to have created this.
To be clear, we don't store that.
Well, Stripe
just so
does.
people
Stripe
don't
does.
get like about that. We don't store
Stripe-
any of that information. We
Right,
do
Stripe
not
does.
want it.
But this be clear, we use Stripe, and Stripe does hold a credit card number. I mean, we use Stripe. So if you created an account, if you prepaid the year, or if you are paying monthly, we have your credit card number. So if you add a pro member, and it says right here, it says it's a $15 a month per user. And again, if you work for a really large firm and you think you can bring hundreds of users, email Mark, Patrick, or myself, and we can negotiate an enterprise rate. We are working with a strategy for large firms. So we're talking about 100 plus, okay? But for the time being, most of the firms that we serve are 5, 6, 10, maybe 20 users. That's $15 a month. And somebody's asking, is that per client? No, this is not per client. We are not an API-based tool. That means we don't connect at the company level. We don't know how many clients you have. We don't care how many clients you have. This is tied to the user, to the person that uses the tool, right? So when you buy a hammer, you don't pay per house that you build. You pay for the hammer, for the person that uses the hammer. If 2 people need a hammer, you got to get 2 hammers. Okay, that's how it works, right? So it's not per company. It doesn't matter how many companies you have, how many Intuit IDs you have. It's per person. It's per actual user using the tool. Okay, that's why we can start with $50 a month, which is fairly high for an app company. But most app companies charge per client or per company file. We don't. So you have to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
One more
Continuing.
caveat I wanted to add before we moved off the adding team members. I've gotten a few emails from people that prepaid for multiple members and they want them on the same team. That I will have to add on my end. So any of you guys that prepaid for more than one user, email me and we'll get that lined up so you're all on the same team.
Yeah.
Heck, I think you muted yourself again.
Yeah, Patrick at monkbee.com.
Yeah. The promo code that we showed earlier and is in the show notes, the webinar notes, that is good. We're still deciding how long, but it'll at least be good through February. So just keeping that in mind. I know a couple of people have asked that. We will be putting in a button that says remove ads for free users. That way, you can have an easier time of figuring out where to go to get pro. In terms of security, good Lord, trying to get the ads, because of the fact that the ads have to call from somewhere, it might be possible that Bitdefender's like, oh, this isn't secure, because there is a API call to get the ads. So that might be why it says security issue on Bitwarden. Again, that also depends on you trusting us a little bit. And I realize that you could technically, everybody says, trust me.
Well, I mean, look, email us at any point in time. There's something weird is happening with your browser or whatever. Email us, send us a screenshot. We'll address all that. I mean, it's our first app. I mean, my first app. You guys have, Mark and Patrick develop other apps, but it's our first app, and we're still trying to figure out how to streamline all these things. We're also pretty much the first in the market to do what we're doing. Like, I assume that this year or next year, there will be many other people mimicking the concept of using a Chrome extension to enhance QuickBooks Online. That's going to happen. I mean, but we're the first ones that are not using the traditional, logging into this site, connect via the API, use this site. We're interacting with your browser, and there's a lot more potential hiccups that can happen as people can have different versions of the browser, different things happening in your computer. So send us those screenshots and we'll do our best to address anything that looks weird or cookie or strange. Okay.
Another thing, gosh, we're going to go through all of these questions, I guess, at this point. It could be possible if the extension, I don't know, Hector, you're the one who experienced this. So I don't know if it doesn't allow you to download the extension or if it just blocks the extension once you do download it. But I know that there are some companies where if you have like a Google, I don't even remember what it's called at this point, but the business Google,
Right.
it
So
could be that it blocks extensions.
if you have G Suite or Google Work Place, I think it's called, where workspace, where your company manages basically email through Google. Most people, when they're logged into their Google Chrome browser, they're logged into that email. Now, whenever you use the Google Chrome browser, some of the permission structure is based on that, on the Google Workspace permission structure. And by default, Google Workspace does not allow extensions by default. So your admin has to go into the backend somewhere and allow people to install extensions, or you have to install the extension in a different Chrome profile that doesn't log into your Gmail or your Google Workspace account. We've actually had to explain that we went through a user and we learned that the hard way. Actually, not even I use Google Workspace, and I had to do that for my firm, but that happened at the very beginning. So I don't remember exactly what the steps there were, but that's what it is.
Yeah. If your screen doesn't look like the login screen, or the settings screen that you have does not look like the settings screens that you've seen today on the webinar, you can really do one of two things. One, you can wait for it to update manually, or you can go to that RightTool extension area and click reload. And yes, this is how you pin it. You go to this jigsaw puzzle, pin it, and then you can use RightTool on that top area.
And click on reload extension. All right. Perfect. I think we've done,
Oh, you muted yourself.
Yeah, we did it under 90 minutes. Somehow we did it. And we'll wrap it up. All the questions were answered. This thing will go into YouTube pretty soon. So I'll stop sharing.
There is one more question that actually was really a good point to make.
Okay.
Somebody said they have different Edge profiles or Chrome profiles, and they save favorites, and it's different on each of those profiles. The extension saves everything to whatever that specific Chrome or Edge or what have you profile is. So if you make a change in one, it doesn't affect the other. So just keep that in mind. If you're somebody who has a lot of Chrome profiles, eventually we'll have it so you can sync that stuff up. We wanted to get that out this release, but time constraints.
But we do want to create a backup mechanism where you can save your favorites and your group favorites into the pro for pro users, by the way, into the pro portal somehow, so then you can reload them in a different computer or a different. We're working on that. That's within sight.
Yeah.
Patrick,
sorry,
you ended
James,
since
we
you did
were answering most things in chat, so
we'll let Patrick end it since he did the least talking. But
Well, I don't know if I have a whole bunch to say. I've been going through these emails that were flying in, so trying to get some of them taken care of over here in case I had anything I had to ask or anything to add.
okay, yeah. So email us, and thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
thank you, everybody.
I haven't ended it because I'm trying to save the chat first.
Gotcha.
It's a very, very long chat. Okay, I'm ending it now. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good one.